Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and you are listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, on this beautiful Tuesday, December 19th, coming to you right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas, and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation, and all of our social media sites, the Facebook page, YouTube, and X. And we tried this week to get Instagram involved. I think we tried to do that last week, but I'm not exactly sure if that's working. And we'll keep working on that. Y'all, you Instagram people out there, if you're interested, and maybe you can find us at some point. So, but yeah, we come to you every night from 6 to 7, Monday through Friday. Try to give you some information about health. Try to share information with you to help you live a better life, live a healthier life. And so I hope you guys are living a healthier life. We've had some really cool stuff here in the office that's happening. One of the girls that's been going through our nutritional program, who's doing fantastic with everything. She got her blood work back, and she's going through some things, and her triglycerides were way on the low end, and her HDLs was way on the high end, and it was like those things were like, well, what's going on there? And if you listen to Dr. Robert Lustig, who I've had on my website, The Rock, we've got two different websites. One of them's more for internal education, and then the other one is for external, outside the office education. But therockhealthandwellness.com, if you go to therockhealthandwellness.com and go to videos, you can see a video there from Robert Lustig. It's called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. And I've had that on there probably since about 2009 or 2010. And Dr. Lustig, we've mentioned him several times on the show. Hacking of the American Mind was a book that we looked at. I think we looked at that last week in parts of it. He's the one that gave us our little graph of our graph of dopamine, that where the sweet spot is right there, right? And so, but he's taught me a lot about things all the way back. Shoot, it's been over a decade now, almost a decade and a half that I've been studying his work and talking about sugar and all the things that I've learned. And one of the things he taught me is if you've got low triglycerides and high HDLs, then you have nothing to worry about from a cardiovascular standpoint about your LDLs or your total cholesterol. And so it was just really cool to see that the blood work that we saw today, because that's exactly what we got. We got that I think we'll start. We've already started that phase where we're getting out of that idea that cholesterol is the key to heart disease. We're moving past that. We've pretty much gone past that whole thing and gotten to the point where we start really understand the inflammation is the problem way more than it is the cholesterol. And I spent the last day, the Dr. Lustig just came out on Andrew Huberman's podcast, the Huberman Labs. If you guys watch that on Facebook, Dr. Huberman's a neuroscientist from Stanford, does a great job teaching, has become super popular. It was kind of funny to listen to him learn some of the new stuff. It's kind of cute to watch him have to learn some of this stuff about sugar and some of the new stuff that Dr. Lustig's been teaching for quite some time. But there was a great podcast. If you guys want to go back and see that and watch that, it's 3 hours long, and so it took me 2 days to watch it. But and then I just turned it on, and I was driving to Littlefield this afternoon and kind of finished it up and listened to it as I was going through there. But Dr. Lustig was talking about statin drugs, and he said, this is his work, not my work. This is his statement. But he said taking his statin drug to prevent heart disease or death has the standard of success for that statin drug before you've ever had a heart attack. Now, this is pre-heart attack level. The standard for that is 4 days of extended lifespan. The difference between taking a statin drug and not taking a statin drug before you've had heart disease or a heart attack is 4 days. So that's if you're on a statin, if you've never had a heart attack before, and you come in, you got high cholesterol, and all of a sudden your doctor's telling you that you need to be on a statin drug, according to Dr. Lustig, not according to me, not according to a chiropractor, according to a well-known, world-renowned, multi-studied, fabulous medical doctor. It's 4 days difference in taking a statin drug and not taking a statin drug. But you get a 20% increase in diabetes. How about that? So you could take your statin drug and then you can increase your diabetes, and you could decrease your CoQ10, and you can decrease your testosterone that goes along with all that sort of thing. So why would you need to? Because someone told you that your cholesterol was high. Well, what could you do about that? And how could you solve that if you wanted to? Well, you could come to the Rock Health and Wellness Center. We'll talk to you about how to eat. We'll show you the things that you're supposed to do. We'll test your heart, see how it's functioning from a sound standpoint. We'll look at your heart rate variability. We'll put you on a workout program. We'll do the whole thing for you right there. And you might just come back and get your blood work done, and your HDLs will be super high and your triglycerides are super low. And that means that there's almost zero chance that you're, according to Dr. Lustig, not according to me, according to Dr. Lustig, that's you've got about a zero chance of ever having a heart attack from or cardiovascular disease at all. Because you remember, we went through that whole thing a few weeks ago about why your cholesterol goes up in the first place. And it's trying to patch the holes that are in your blood vessels. That's why it's going up in the first place. And those holes are created from our good old friend, sugar. Really? Yep, you read it. Sugar. And what is sugar? It's 50% glucose and 50% fructose. And fructose is a toxin. It's bad for you. And there's no function in the body for that we need fructose for. And that's what is killing us. So if you want to go back and listen to what Dr. Lustig brought to you, or has taught me, he just pretty much was teaching Dr. Huberman this time, but he just went back and covered all that information to explain to you, hey, look, there's some things that you can do to be healthier. There's some things that, and it's really tough. And it's one of the things that I fight with this little show that we're doing right here, is because what I find myself, I go back and watch these shows, and what I find over and over and over is a, a sense of negativity. It pointing out the detriment of living well. And I'm going to do a better job on that in 2024. But it's just so easy to do. And maybe that's my old coaching background coming back. And when you're looking at the man, you got to, it's not the wins, it's the losses that drive you crazy. It's not the wins that you remember so much as the losses that really hurt. The plays that you didn't play well are the ones that, because those are the ones that get you beat. Those are the ones that get you fired. That's how that works. So they have this extra value in your brain. And sometimes I think that I speak of it too much when I'm trying to help you in health and wellness. I speak a little bit too much of the negative effects of things. But I think it's important. I think it's important for us to learn those things so that we can kind of understand, all right, well, these are the things that we don't want to do. And when we're talking about the things that we do want to do, right? When we're talking about, well, don't eat sugar and eat your meat and vegetables. Well, eating meat and vegetables means that you're not eating sugar. And so when you're trying to do healthy things, go for a walk. Like, make sure that you have muscle mass. You don't want to lose muscle mass as you get older. You don't want to lose muscle mass really any time in your lifetime. It really comes down to those those 3 or 4 things, right? It's like we're doing a health show talking about health. I see the challenge in this whole thing. I'm feeling it. We're in the 3.5 months of doing the show. I haven't even counted how many shows we've done so far. And what we've been challenged with is that health is really simple. It's really not complicated. And all the guys out there in the world and all the gals and now everybody that's doing some sort of health show and they're talking about health, if they're doing it 5 nights a week, what I can see where they get trapped, and they get trapped into wanting to talk about some fringe thing over here. Like we're just going to start moving off into the fringe things, and I guess maybe that I'll eventually have to get there because it'll drive you nuts if I keep on if we keep on going the same way. But it all comes back to the same thing. The girl came in today. She showed me her blood work. She looks great. She feels great. She's doing great. She's her it's like her HDLs are up and her triglycerides are down. That's a simple thing right there. And if you've got high triglycerides, unless you have a very specific, if you have a very specific um, disease process or genetic process that would make you have just an extremely high level of cholesterol, which that can be dangerous. The rest of that stuff, man, we can help you with that. We can help fix that for you, and it's not complicated. It's rather simple, and it was fun to listen. It was fun to listen to her talk about her health today. It was also fun to listen to Dr. Lustig and Dr. Huberman talk to themselves and have that conversation about, because it just was like one thing after another. It got a little complicated at times, but I think for the most part, everybody can handle the conversation. Um, Listening to it, Dr. Lustig gets pretty detailed. He's got an amazing memory, um, and I don't even know how old he is, but he's got to be 70 years old, and he's got an amazing memory to be able to recall all the different types of receptors and all the different types of triglycerides and all the different types of things that the lipids and all the things that he's talking about. He does a really good job of mapping those out for us. But he can remember all that stuff, and it's really impressive to listen to. So if you guys want to listen to him, it's a great podcast. Um, Andrew Huberman does a good job with it, and it'd be very eye opening to you to get to have that opportunity to go listen to him. So last night, um, we got into we were in our taking our health to church segment. We got into Micah, and we were breaking down Micah, the chapter in the Bible, the book in the Bible, and it was basically talking about living your life over a period of time in the wrong way and what the consequences of that can be. And so he got into it from a whole church standpoint. We were trying to get into it from a whole health standpoint. And one of the things that I wrote down, I kind of just wrote down some thoughts, and I thought I'd just touch on those thoughts tonight, some of them, and then we'll get into some other stuff as well. But and I'm just going to read what I wrote yesterday, and then we'll just kind of expand on it as we're going through here. But live a long we sometimes live a long time before we figure things out. That's really hard to know if you haven't lived if you haven't lived a long time, right? It's hard to know that you're going to figure things out when you get older, when you're not older. It's just all the older people are laughing. They think that's funny because they're like, "Yep, we could have told you that. We've been trying to tell you young pups that for a long time." And when you're young, you don't even thinking about that stuff. There's just there's a lot of things that I haven't thought about, and um, that I'm just now thinking about. And and some of it takes you a while to figure it out. Like with all the education I have, and I'm not saying that from bragging. I've been to lots of classes. I had 12 years of college, and now I've had 19 years of study after college. So there's a lot. I've read a lot of sentences in my lifetime and listened to a lot of thoughts and all that sort of thing. And you would have thought that it wouldn't have taken me 51 years to figure out to get rid of sugar. And but it did. It took me a long time. I can't explain why. We've gone over that. But sometimes it takes a long time to figure things out. Well, during that time, we create some disease, some degeneration, and destruction inside our bodies. There's some things that we do to ourselves that really cause problems for us. in the time frame that we were not doing things right. And it doesn't really matter. You can say the same thing about your marriage. You can say the same thing about your finances. You can say the same thing about your social life. If you're living wrong, you're creating destruction, degeneration, disease inside those systems that once you figure it out that you've screwed it all up and that you've been doing it wrong, there are some things that stay there. When we straighten up and do right, that disease, degeneration, destruction doesn't just go away. In fact, it may not be able to be corrected at all. And one of the things that I think about right there is like degenerative disc disease in our spine. It's I don't know really of any instance when you get to a point where your spine has worn itself out that we can reverse that. I've seen a few things that make things better, but I'm talking about some real massive degeneration that a person has in their spine. There's some degeneration that it's just it's there. It's going to be there. It's going to stay there. There's effects of it that are there, and some of it you can't overcome. Now we're taught on the very first day of chiropractic school about this innate intelligence, right? And that the body is a self-healing organism, and that if the power that made the body heals the body, and those things, and I never, whenever I'm talking about this flesh stuff, I'm not saying that miracles can't happen. I'm not saying that there aren't examples where, you know, a rod is turned into a snake, or back and forth, or water's turned into wine. I'm not talking about those kind of examples. I do believe that there are miracles that can take place, but I also believe that there's just a practicality to to health and wellness. Oh, after you've been through the fight, after you've been through the fire, after you've been through the time where you made the choices where it didn't function right. Now, one of the things I do know is that your body turns itself over. Those cells you're making new cells all the time. You're making new skin cells all the time. You're making new red blood cells all the time. These are not 53-year-old whiskers on my face. This is not 53-year-old hair on my head. I just got a haircut on Friday, and it grows out and that gets replaced, right? So the lining of your intestine lasts 3 days. And Dr. Lustig did a really good job in that podcast of it kind of explaining what leaky gut is. And he did a way better job of 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 talking about how there's proteins that that sew cells together. They I thought about it like a baseball glove, kind of like um, the webbing in a baseball glove. There's leather, and then there's leather straps, and those leather straps are holding together that web in that baseball glove. And you can throw a baseball 100 miles an hour at another person, and that person can stop and catch. They can catch that baseball as it's because they hit when it hits that webbing of that baseball glove, because that leather holds those pieces of the glove together so that they're nice and tight, so that the ball will stop when it hits it. And the inside the lining of our gut is we have a cell, and then you have another cell, and then what ties those cells together is some proteins, and then what covers that cell is like a slime that goes on the outside of that cell, and it's called the mucin layer, and that layer of slime is what protects those cells. The protein straps them together, sews them together really tight, and then that slime, it's not the great word for it, but that's what it is over the top of those cells. Now when food passes through your gut, it just keeps going. Like it has to get through the slime, and then it has to get through the cells. And now we've got protection. We've got protection about how that food is actually getting into our system. Well, If you are not eating the proper foods, like fiber is one of them. If you're not eating the proper foods, or in another way of saying that is if you're eating the improper foods, and one of the things is fructose. What he breaks down is fructose destroys the slime layer over the top of that. So now it destroys that slime layer, and it exposes those proteins and the cells to the food that's passing by. Well, what will happen is if there's too much movement, if there's too much stress on those cells, it's kind of like that baseball glove. And if you ever had a baseball glove for any period of time, or you got an old baseball glove, and you caught a bunch of throws from out with that baseball glove, then pretty soon that leather starts to stretch, and those little leather straps will start to stretch, and you can actually have it to where someone throws a ball and it goes right through the middle of that baseball glove. It might hit you right in the lip or the chest or something like that, because the straps stretched enough that now they weren't able to hold that webbing together in that baseball glove, and now the ball, when the ball comes through there, it just goes right through the glove. And any of you that's ever experienced that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That webbing gets loose in that baseball glove, that ball is coming through there. Well, that right there is kind of an example of leaky gut. That's what leaky gut is. That's that protein that's trying to hold those cells together, that's kind of worked its way free, kind of like your shoestring does on your shoe. If your shoestring comes untied and it just kind of works its way free, now all of a sudden you got holes in the lining of your intestine. And that's what leaky gut is right there. And now the protective mechanism of your gut has now gotten eaten away, and you get things in your body that aren't supposed to be in your body. And when you get those things in your body that aren't supposed to be in your body, you're forcing your immune system to respond to them. That now your immune system actually it's like, dude, you're making me do something here, because that's not supposed to be here, right? That's what I talked about in one of our previous shows. You swallow a penny, you pass a penny, because your brain wouldn't know what to do with the penny, even if that penny was to get into your bloodstream, your brain wouldn't know what to do with it. Well, now you've got your immune system that has to create a response to these pieces of food that would have never gotten into the system in the first place. Matter of fact, they're not even supposed to be in the system. Fructose is not even supposed to be in the system. It's not even supposed to be there. And so there's no metabolic need for fructose in the body. But if it was to get through there, or you were to get some other toxin that got through there, or something else in the body that wasn't what was foreign, somehow was foreign. That's one of the things in milk. One of the things in milk is that bovine serum albumin, that protein, that if it was a big long protein, if you somehow swallowed a shoestring, and that big old long shoestring was going through your bloodstream, and you had one little old um, crack or something in your gut lining, that shoestring wouldn't be able to get through there, and it would just pass through, and then you would just pass the shoestring. I know that's stupid, and you wouldn't. You probably break it down, but the example of it is it's long and big. Now let's take a pair of scissors and let's cut that shoestring up into 1,000 pieces. Cut it up, cut it up, cut it up, cut it up. And now you swallow that shoestring, all of that, those 1,000 pieces of shoestring, and you swallow it. And now it's conceivable that maybe one of those little pieces of shoestring could actually slip through one of the holes in your gut. Okay, if it wasn't supposed to be there in the first place, because it's not, it's serum bovine albumin, it's supposed to be in a bovine, not in a human, right? So it's supposed to be in a cow. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a foreign object, a foreign particle inside our vessel that our body has to respond to. And what is our body going to do? The immune response is going to kick in. We're going to have an immune response because the immune system's job is to protect us from all those foreign invaders. Well, one of the first things that the immune system, one of the first phases of immune response is inflammation. So we're going to get inflammation. And the other thing that happens, I didn't mean to get off on this, but the other thing that happens in that particular case is if that piece of shoestring actually slips through the gut lining, then what we're going to end up with is the brain trying to say, "Hey, look, um, you're you got to push that as far away from the heart and the brain as possible. Don't you let that shoestring get in my brain, and don't you let that shoestring get in my heart, because then we're going to be in some serious trouble. So what we got to do is we got to push it as far away as we can, and it'll end up in your hands, and then your hands will get all arthritic, and you get all sore, and you get all these nodules in your hands. Right? That's leaky gut, and that's what happens when we get back from the break. Well, what I was going to say before I got 20 seconds, but the the thing about leaky gut is that the lining of your intestine replaces itself every 3 days. If you stop attacking the lining of your intestine, you can replace the lining of your intestine in 3 days, 6 days, 9 days, 12 days. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. You guys hang on, and we'll finish this idea. Yeah, we don't understand that. I don't think we don't think that we understand that we have the ability to replace the lining of our gut. Those are 3 day lifespans. This cell and this cell have a 3 day lifespan, and the it's going to live, it's going to do its thing, and then it's going to be replaced by a new cell. It's going to have a new cell, and that new cell is going to have a new protein that's going to try to tie it back together. And then that new cell is going to have another protein. There's another new cell that's coming along. Now we got to get those proteins. We got to sew them back together. You know, you could take an old baseball glove and you can get some new leather straps, and you can re-strap or um, I guess that's what it's called, rethread, restrap your baseball glove, and you can tie that webbing back together when that strap got loose, and you can keep your same baseball glove, and it's just been repaired. Now, when you can catch a ball, and it won't go through the middle of that glove, and um, so we are constantly renewing those cells. We're renewing this hair. We're renewing this skin. We're renewing fingernails. We're renewing the lining of our intestine. The red blood cells last 120 days in our body, right? So we do have hope, and we do have an opportunity to try to correct some of those things that we've created bad for ourselves over a long period of time. And I don't want to get too far ahead of it. Um, I want to kind of take it and let the listeners on the radio show learn it. But if you have any comments, you got any comments about this or any questions about this? Here's a chat right there. Um, hey, Lewis, thanks for yeah. It's good that you're getting to hear it, and I know it took me a long time to get this thing going, and um, and I'm trying to get the video better. Lewis left a message here. He says, "Hello, it's good to see you finally got to hear your podcast. Hope you're doing well." Yes, I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Lewis was a listener of ours on our show that I did with Ken Adams on Walk by Faith every Wednesday when we did Wellness Wednesday on his The Thin Line with Ken Adams. And so we've had some great conversations with Lewis over the years. It's pretty awesome. You got to forgive him. He's a Texas Longhorn fan, so we do have to forgive him for that part. But I know he's done awesome with working on or listening to some of this stuff and implementing some of the stuff we've been talking about. So hope everything's going well with you and your family. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, and um, it's good to see your name. Let me get us back on the radio here. So okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons. Welcome back to the show. We are talking about a thought that I had based on the scripture that we were studying yesterday, and we were just kind of breaking down leaky gut right there, and what exactly leaky gut was, and how it was, what why we get it, and then what the effects of it are. Right? So you can just imagine it. If something gets through there, and it actually gets through those little the webbing that's there between those cells, you're going to have an immune response. And one of the biggest immune responses you're going to have is inflammation. And the one of the second biggest immune immune responses that you're going to have is allergies. You're going to have an allergic response to that whole thing as well. And a lot of times I see a lot of patients that come in the office that are getting allergy tested for foods. They're saying, boy, you're allergic to this, and you're allergic to this, and you're allergic to this. What they're not saying is that the reason you're having an allergic response to this food is because you got holes in your gut and you've eaten that slime away. And that slime is what is one of the big things that you get that's protecting that cell is what you get from fiber. And one of the examples that Dr. Lustig used on his podcast, on the podcast that I was watching, was he said, okay, let's take for an example that if you eat almonds and you eat 160 calories of almonds, this is just kind of an example. If you eat 160 calories of almonds, what exactly, how many of those calories do you actually absorb and ingest into your body? And the answer was 130 calories. So when you eat 160 calories of almonds, you end up ingesting 130 calories of almonds. Well, the question that he asked was, where'd the other 30 calories go? And what he explained was that where they went was the fiber inside the almond will actually add to that coating, that coating that's over those cells in your intestine. It adds to it. The fiber adds to it, and then it allows some of that almond to slide right on past and not get absorbed into your body. And it moves to the lower part of your intestine where you actually you feed your microbiome. You feed the bacteria that are waiting down there part of that almond. So when you're eating, he made a kind of a joke. He said, when a mother is pregnant, when a girl is pregnant, she's eating for two, and he said, really, you're eating for trillions, because that's what you're eating for. When you are eating, you're not just eating for yourself, but you're eating for all the bacteria that are inside your gut. Well, just imagine what happens if you destroy that lining and you destroy all that, and you're not eating the proper foods with enough fiber. And that's one of the things that they take out of food when they put it in a box. They take it out so it doesn't ruin, and they could have a shelf life that lasts for a period of time. Or fructose. And remember what fructose is. Fructose is what is a toxin in the body. And remember what white sugar is. White sugar is 50% fructose and 50% glucose. So every time we eat anything with white sugar in it, 50% of those calories are from fructose. And that fructose is a toxin, and that fructose helps destroy that little slime layer. So now we end up with some sort of leaky gut type of problem, and then we end up getting sick. So let's get back to my thought about some of the things. We sometimes live a long time before we figure things out. During that time, we create some disease, degeneration, and destruction. When we straighten up and do right, that disease, degeneration, and destruction doesn't just go away. In fact, it may not be able to be corrected. Not all of it can be corrected, but some of it can be. But so what is our best option? That's what I wrote down. Well, we can say to heck with it and just continue on our path of degeneration and disease, degeneration, and destruction, or We can commit ourselves to doing right, even if we cannot overcome all of the problems. The best coaching job that I did when I would coach college football for 6 years was the last year that I coached. One of the best, I hate to say that, but one of the best coaching jobs was the last year I coached at New Mexico State, and our record was 2-9. That year, I did one of the best coaching jobs that I could possibly do, and we got fired. Our coach got fired. I was part of the staff. I got fired. We were 2-9, and we got fired. But the guys that came in afterwards actually made the comment that it seems like the only guys that got coached around here were the wide receivers, which that was a great compliment to me. I really appreciated it. And one of those guys called me and said, "Hey, I'm trying to get a coaching job, and if I get a head coaching job, I want you to come coach for me," which I thought was, he didn't even know me. He didn't even know anything about me other than the fact that he saw the fruits of my labor. He saw my kids that I coached for 3 years, and based on what he saw about them, he was willing to hire me if he ever got a coaching job. Now that didn't manifest itself. He didn't get the job, and I didn't go with him and got him. And now, luckily for me, I'm right here with you on this Tuesday evening. But my point to that is, the best option that I could do, I couldn't correct all the problems that we had at New Mexico State, especially when I was 25 years old, right? I couldn't fix all the problems that were there. But what I could do is I could do the absolute best thing. I could do the best job that I could possibly do. And that's what I tried to do. And as we were going through that season and we were losing games, it was harder and harder to keep my kids focused on what was going on. I would have to in pre-practice warm up. Our whole team would just sit down there and jack around. Nobody was ready to practice. Nobody was prepared to practice. Nobody had their game. Like they didn't come to practice trying to get better that day. They were all jacking around, throwing balls around, interrupting my drills, my pre-practice drills that I would do. So what I had to do is I had to take my kids and go all the way to the other end of the football field and do our pre-practice drills by ourselves. We had to get away from the rest of the team, and we had to go down there to the end, and we had to run those pre-practice drills by ourselves and get ready to practice, because that's how you get better. You work on it every single day. You work on it. You try to get better every single day, and that's what I was trying to teach those kids is like, hey, look, you can't control a lot of things in your life. You can't control if you're a single mom that with kids and you don't get paid enough to hardly make a living, and you're working multiple jobs and you got a bunch of problems. You can't control how much milk costs or how much grass-fed beef costs or how much, like, there's a lot of things you can't control, right? There's things we can't control about our border. There's things we can't control about the school systems. There's things we can't control about politics. There's things we can't control about. There's thousands of things we can't control. But what we can do is we can make a decision for ourselves, and we can try to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try as best I can today to be the best that I can be. And that's when we have reached that point where we finally figured it out. We finally have decided, you know what? Like, I've done this wrong for a long time, and because I've done this wrong, I've broken some laws that govern health. I've done some stupid things. I've eaten too much sugar. I drank too many Cokes. I did all those things that the sodas, all that stuff that, man, I don't know why I did that, but okay, well, there's a certain amount of things that I need to deal with. And what I thought right there is what I have learned. So what is the best option? To say the heck with it and continue on our path of disease, degeneration, and destruction, or commit ourselves to doing right, even if we can't overcome all of those problems? Well, what I've learned is that second one is the best option. Is like, you know what? I'm going to try to do right. I'm going to try to do right today, even though I've messed up some of the stuff. and I'm going to try to take it and carry it over. And one of the things I've learned, this sugar thing has been so awesome for me because it has matured me in a way that I didn't know was possible, really. Because I've done that, we're 21 and a half months now since I've had a piece of bread. We're 21 and a half months. You guys have heard it. We're sick at your stomach listening to how many times I've talked about it. I get it. But what it's done for me is it's given me a mechanism to clear some other things away. It's given me a mechanism to recognize some of the other things. One of the other things I've started to do is cut back on salt. And I know salt's not a super enemy, but it's something that I personally have used too much of over my lifetime. I've been a saltaholic my whole life, and I've cut back on my salt. You know, I love coffee. Everybody that knows me, a lot of my patients will just they'll give me coffee, Starbucks cards for Christmas or for my birthday or something like that. Like I love coffee. I've had, shoot, I went through a period from about 2009 and even before that, but from 2009 to about 5 weeks ago, I I've had a Starbucks coffee almost every day. I mean, I've I love coffee, and one of the things I decided was, you know, maybe that's not necessary. Maybe What am I doing? Am I a slave to the coffee? What is the deal with me and coffee? Why am I? What is going on right there? Well, I've only had one cup of coffee in almost 5 weeks. What it's allowed me to do is it's allowed me to start to eliminate some of those other things in my life, and I'm trying to spread them out and look at all of the things. How do I be a better husband? How do I be a better father? How do I be a better doctor? How do I handle my finances better? How do I handle my social life better? It's been really clearing in vision, and in thought, to be able to reach a level that's going right there. And what I really think is that's my best option. For me, that's what I'm doing. Is I really think that the best thing I can do is I can try to be the best me that I can be today. I don't think there's anything that I can do that's better than that. And I don't think there's anything that you can do that's better than that. And what if you and I together did that? What if I tried to be the best me that I could be today, and you tried to be the best you that you could be today, and we just happened to get to a level where we started influencing other people to be the best thems that they could be today? Like, I know that's not proper English, and if you're an English teacher, you're probably listening to me already and thinking this boy should go back to school. And I wouldn't argue with you a bit. But just think about that for a second. So to say something positive about health and wellness, what would I say? What You're like, all right, Jason, you're always telling us all the negative things about sugar and about sugary sodas and all that stuff. Here's all the omega 6s and the omega 3s and all that sort of thing. Like, tell us something we can take into this. Tell us something we can do that makes our life better. Right? Well, I'll tell you something that you can do to make your life better. And this is something that you're not going to hear on a lot of other podcasts unless you're listening to specifically to a chiropractor. But one of the things you can do is get your nervous system looked at. I had a fantastic new patient today. I was so excited for her. She's a daughter of a patient that I take care of, and she was in town just visiting her mom, and she's fixing to move to another state to go to graduate school, and she just wanted to get adjusted. And so her mom texts the office or asks the office, "Hey, can 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 I bring my daughter in? Can she come in and just get adjusted?" Well, we don't just do that. We don't do walk-ins. We don't do just quick adjustments like that. I'm not the joint. I'm over that stuff. This is not a back pain clinic. This is a health and wellness deal. But I do also have a brain, and I also understand that. Hey, look, sometimes this is not a long term patient for me. This is she's going to be in and out, and she's going to be gone, and that's going to be the end of that. So she was expecting. I said, sure, bring her in. Well, I knew what I was going to do with her. We were going to go through some of the things that we do in the office so that she could have that knowledge, so that when she left to go to that other state that she's going to, that she would at least have heard it once. She would at least have heard it one time. And she thought she was coming in, that she was just going to get on the table, get adjusted, and be out of the office in 5 minutes. And that's not what that's not what we did, because I'm not going to do that to you. I would not do that to you. There's no way that I would do that to a person again. That No, that's not happening. So we took her in. She filled out her paperwork, and then we just did a modified new a first day with her, and we went through the testing that we do. We shot a lateral cervical X-ray of her. We did the right eye test. I did a reflex app test on her, and we did all that stuff. And when she came in to sit down for the reflex app test, I said, "All right, we just got one more test, and then we'll get you adjusted." And you could see the irritation on her face. She was so irritated because her expectations and her reality were messed up. They didn't match, right? They didn't match. And so she just was like, and then I did the pupillary light reflex that we do. It's called the Reflex Pro. And we actually take a 5-second video of your eyeball. And so I did that while she was mad. It was so funny. She didn't say she was mad. She was being polite, but you could tell her she was like, this is not what I expected out of my mom's chiropractor. I'm so irritated right now. And when I took that pupillary light reflex of her eyeball just bounced, like that right eye, it partially closed down, and then it just started bouncing open like that. And it was so funny because then I took the left side, and then I just spent a second with her, talking to her about her health. I just spent a second with her, explaining to her about her nervous system. And I did the real short version of what you guys have been getting for 3.5 months on right brain, left brain, unknown, known, all that stuff. And I said, look, and I said, what was your undergrad degree? And she said, psychology. I said, man, that's right up my alley right there. That's exactly what you're going to love this. That's what I'm thinking in my head. She's like, she has no idea who I am. She's like, this is a weirdo. But I explained to her, I took just a second to explain to her how her nervous system worked and what was happening right there. And then I showed her her results, and I showed her her right eye scan, and I showed her how what her frontal lobe was doing and what her parietal lobe was doing and why exactly that pupil was bouncing. And I told her that she was mad at me. Look, I ain't the first time I had a girl mad at me. I figured that out a long time ago. It's kind of easy to know when a girl's mad at you, mostly. I mean, and so, but that's one of I just, when all of a sudden she opened up. All of a sudden, I said, I know this is not what you expected, but I love you too much to treat you any differently. I'm not going to let you come in my office, come into the Rock Health and Wellness Center in Lubbock, Texas. I'm not going to let you step inside the doors and come in here and get adjusted and not listen, at least hear one time how your nervous system, the most amazing system in the universe, the most amazing system in the universe is the human nervous system. Why would I? It's taken me a long time to grow up. It's taken me a long time to figure some things out. And that's like, man, why would I let this person, this beautiful young lady, why would I let her come in here and think that this is a pop and crack type of deal? Like, but just like she's been through with all the other chiropractors she's ever been to. Why would I let her do that? And I didn't. And I showed her what was going on with her. And then she started asking, well, how would I fix this? And I'm like, well, let me show you some things you can do. And let me show you why this is happening to you. And let me show you what's going on with this muscle and why they're firing the way that they're firing. And then I took her and I showed her. While she's getting adjusted, she said, well, do you do the nutrition and stuff too? Yes, ma'am. We do. We do nutrition. We've thought about you before you got here. We do nutrition. We do a heart rate variability. We do a heart sound recorder. Exactly. And then I took her back and showed her the Ultra G treadmill and how we can take 80% of your body weight off of you. And then I walked her across to the gym and I showed her the Vibe plates and the laser glasses and things that we do to rehab your brain in the office. And then we walked her up to the front and I said, well, it sure was nice to meet you. And if you ever get back to town, I sure would love to see you. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. And she told her mom, she turned to her mom and her mom thought, oh no. Her mom thought that she was in trouble because they'd been there for about 45 minutes. And her mom thought, oh crap, I am in trouble. She's going to be mad. And she turned to her mom and said, I hope I can come back and work at this place whenever I get out of grad school. It was so cute. She was flipped. She had a 180-degree flip in that one moment right there. In 45 minutes, she came in from thinking that chiropractic was this pop and crack thing that she's been used to all of a sudden getting a little picture of what her nervous system's doing and how we might be able to make her life better. And she was so happy with that experience. And so if I'm going to say something to you about one of the things that you could do, one of the things that you can do is to get your nervous system checked. Get somebody, if you're listening to us and you're in a different town, find a wellness chiropractor and get your nervous system checked. If you're listening to us in another town and you can't find a wellness chiropractor, then call our office and make an appointment and come to Lubbock. Check into a hotel and 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 come to the office and stay here in Lubbock for a few days. Make your vacation Lubbock. Well, you can go down to the Buddy Holly Center. You can go listen to a concert or something. You can go watch the Red Raiders play. You can do something like that, and you can spend a few days with us, and we'll work on your nervous system. We'll evaluate your nervous system for you to let you see how your body is supposed to function. And then maybe you might have a little bit of clue because what you really are trying to do is you're trying to be the absolute best you that you can be today. That's what you're really trying for, right? That's what you want to do. And how can you possibly do that with a bad nervous system? How can you possibly do that if you have interference or an abnormal firing pattern of your brain? What if we could correct that and make your life easier? What if it would be more efficient by doing it that way? That would be one thing that you could do. The next thing that you could do is really, really, really work on eliminating sugar. Get that out of your system. Get that fructose out of your system. High fructose corn syrup out of your system. Get that stuff away from you and get it out of your system because it's making you sick. I guarantee you it's making you sick. It's not a question of if or when. Go read Micah 5, chapter or 5, 1, 2, and 3. Go read Micah and listen to what the prophet said about what's going on. Like, it's not a matter of if or not. It's definitely making you sick. Sugar is making you sick. The next thing you could do, and Dr. Lustig said the same exact thing on his deal today. I thought it was awesome. Go for a walk. Go for a walk. Help yourself by going for a walk. Those are simple things that you can do. Like eat meat and vegetables. Eat grass-fed animals. Whatever animal you want to eat grass-fed animals. And eat vegetables. Eat your meat and vegetables. Eat nuts from a tree. Eat berries. They were talking about it, and Dr. Huberman was talking about how he did a scan. He did a full-body MRI, and he eats a lot of blueberries. And he said in the full-body MRI, he could actually see this white stuff in the MRI. And he said, "What is that?" And they said, "It's magnesium." And it's one of the side effects of eating high levels of blueberries. Now, I didn't know that. That was great. Something I learned from the podcast, but it was really super cool when what he talked about was that he increased his magnesium levels by eating high levels of blueberries. That's like, how easy is that, right? Eat your good blueberries, eat your berries, grass-fed meat, vegetables, eat nuts from a tree, eat your berries, easy on your fruits. Stay away from things like bananas. They're high in sugar, right? Easy on your fruits, but and then stay away from that sugar. Don't drink your calories. Another thing that you could do right there, don't drink your calories. That stay away from sugary drinks. If you do those things, you'll be healthier in 2024. I hope this was a good show. I appreciate you listening. If you got any questions or comments, you're welcome to leave them on our social media page or send us a text, 806-794-0400. You guys have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night.